What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Accelerated Motion YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, make sure to smash that subscribe button if you like what you see. We've got a lot of different projects on this channel. Primarily, these are BMW videos, but we do have something different here in the garage. I do work on other cars occasionally, and today we're going to be doing some exhaust work. So let's show you guys what we got. You guessed it, another Ford video. So today we've got a 2003 Ford Mustang GT, as you can see right here behind me. This is the 4.6 liter, and this thing is actually super clean. This is a buddy of mine. It just rolled over about 57,000 miles, and this thing is super mint. So we are going to crank this up a little bit. Currently, this car has a MagnaFlow Xpipe with a stock rear section, and we are going to be putting something on that's a little bit louder. All right, so before I go ahead and unbox these, I figured I'd just tell you guys what we have going on. Currently, the car has a MagnaFlow Xpipe as well as a stock rear section, and we are going to be replacing that with some louder pipes. First off, we've got a BBK Offroad Xpipe, so this is fully catless here, and then we also have a Borla S Type Catback exhaust, and it has polished tips. This exhaust setup here will fit 99 through 04 GTs as well as a Mach 1. So if you guys are looking to purchase this, I will put links in the description below of where we purchased these, and you can get it for yourself. So I went ahead and pulled everything out of the boxes here. So this is the BBK Offroad Xpipe, fully catless, and here's everything that it came with. So we've got some new hardware down here as well as a couple exhaust clamps. We do have to replace the passenger side exhaust gasket, so I've got a couple of those over here. I've actually got two of them here to choose from that the guys over at the auto parts store recommended, but it didn't sound like they knew what the hell they were talking about. So we've got two here. Hopefully one of these will fit. Additionally, we have the Borla over here. So super nice piece over here. And this as well came with a couple new exhaust clamps. And like I said before, polished tips. So I'm gonna leave the bubble wrap on here just to protect the tips. That way when we install everything, we're not scratching anything up. So what we need to do now is get the car up in the air. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I've got the car up in the air. So I've got 4 jack stands under here. Should be enough room, I think, for me to get underneath here and unbolt this exhaust. So as you can see, safety is first, and I think it's go time. Here's a rundown of the tools that you're going to need in order to perform these tasks. So I've got a couple different things here. I've got a hammer, I've got a 15mm wrench, I've got a bunch of 15mm sockets, both deep and shallow, a couple 14mm sockets. I've got a 1/2 inch ratchet, 3/8 inch ratchet, a couple of various sizes of extensions, and then an O2 sensor remover tool here, and some gloves. Also have a light, and some safety glasses might not be a bad idea either. Oh yeah, and if you have one of these swivel sockets, that might be helpful to have as well. Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal here on the battery because down below the starter is very close to the Xpipe, and so that could potentially spark. So just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that. All right, so we're underneath the car here now, and space is tight. So there are 4 O2 sensors that we need to remove on this pipe up here. So this is the front of the car, and you can see these 2 O2 sensors, the plugs. So there's one on each side, one there and one on this side. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug these first. They're just little Molex plugs. The other 2 are actually way up at the front part of the pipe, which is close to the transmission. So those are gonna be a little bit harder for us to get. Here we go. So we went ahead and unplugged the O2 sensors. So before taking those off, I actually decided to spray all of the bolts with some deep penetrating oil because they're a little bit rusty. So I actually was able to get a few of them off, or loosened at least. So if you can see up there, That is the last remaining nut that I need to get off. You'll need to use some long extensions as well as a swivel. That's what I'm having trouble with, but there's one above, right behind that O2 sensor right there, that you'll also have to use the extensions for, and that one came off just fine. So that one right there is the only one that I'm having issues with. And as you can see on this side, driver's side, that one there is loose, and the one above it, above the O2, is also loose. So that should come off no problem. And then those are 15 millimeters, by the way. And then over here, so the other side of the Xpipe, where it connects to the mufflers, which, by the way, now that I'm under here, I was told incorrectly. So these are MagnaFlow mufflers here in the rear. So we are replacing all this stuff. So the Xpipe, where the Xpipe meets the MagnaFlow, you'll see these 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's nuts on this side. So these 4 nuts I also sprayed with some deep penetrating oil, and all 4 of these are now loose. So now that we've got that loose, I'm gonna let the rest of the bolts, or that remaining bolt up there, soak in the oil a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna head to the back and start removing the rear section. All right, now this is a view from the very back. So this is the rear diff here. If you follow the piping, you can see this is the driver's side muffler. Comes all the way back here, and there is an exhaust hanger right there that we need to remove. So I've got a special tool, exhaust hanger removal tool, that we will be using. Same thing with the passenger side. As you can see, I've already taken this one off. Pretty simple to do. Didn't need to use any lubricant or anything. Pretty much just used this tool. So I will put a link in the description for this tool. I bought this on Amazon. It's just like $10. I've used it a dozen times now. So as you can see, the muffler goes up over the axle. This long pipe here comes all the way up and out here to the tip. So after that hanger up there, and after unbolting those 2 bolts up there, all we need to do is slide it out of this hanger right here. It should come right off. There we go. Okay, so moving back to the center here. So I just need to separate, and it comes right down. So now we're ready to basically slide this off this back hanger here. There we go. So the fun part now is having to hacksaw the mufflers off here. So basically, as you can see, the U-bend goes up above the axle on both sides. So it's nearly impossible to get this off. And I'm pretty sure this MagnaFlow, when it first came here, when it was first new, was actually welded on right there at that section. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut above on both sides with a Sawzall, and that will give us a little bit more room and allow us to get this out of here. Also, if your exhaust is completely stock back here in the rear section, you're going to have to do the exact same thing with your stock mufflers. Same exact thing on the driver's side. You just want to be mindful of any wires and things that you could cut through. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so we're moving back up here to the passenger side front where I've been having a little bit of trouble with this bolt here. You guys can see that. So that bolt there, extremely hard to get to because you need to use a couple long extensions as well as a swivel, and that's a 15 millimeter. So all of those bolts, those two up there, and same with the driver's side over there, are all 15 millimeter nuts. And this nut here in the bottom was causing me a lot of problems. So I had to go whip out the big boy impact driver, which I borrowed from a buddy of mine. So that broke it free, fortunately, and I've been working on that one bolt single-handedly for several hours now. So I obviously hit all of these nuts with some penetrating oil and let it soak, and this one would just not budge. So we finally got it, and it's loose. And basically what we need to do now is before we go any further, what we need to do is remove these O2 sensors, because as soon as I remove that bolt, this whole Xpipe is coming down. So I don't want to put any tension on these O2 sensors. So what I've got here is an O2 sensor removal tool, which is right here. So I've had this for a very, very long time. I've done lots of exhausts over the course of my time, and this has really come in handy for removing O2s. I'll put a link in the description below on Amazon for one of these if you want to buy one, but they're not very expensive, but very, very useful. So as you can see on the tool, it's got a little cutout, so that allows me to slip the tool over the actual sensor, and then we're just going to use the ratchet to unscrew it. So there's my O2, and I've got it, a little tool on there with my ratchet. Go ahead and unscrew like I normally would. So doing the same thing here on the driver's side. Just use my tool here.
Okay, finally have it out. That was awful. If you have the ability to do this on a lift, I would highly recommend doing that. It's just so much harder to do it with, you know, I don't know, 12 inches of space down there to work with. So that one bolt was this bottom one here on the passenger side. That nut was extremely stuck on there, but as soon as I hit it with the impact, it came off, so thank God. And then getting the O2s off, it's just easier to unscrew them here off the pipe and leave them dangling, because it's just way too difficult to get your hand up inside of there to unplug it like I did back here. So leave those two up there, and then we can go ahead and screw them back into the new pipes. And these are going to be transferred over just as they are now. The blue one on the driver's side, and we'll transfer them over to the BBK Xpipe. So I'm going to transfer that over now, and then we can go ahead and get these front two pipes on. And I like to leave everything loose, so these two pipes will go on first. I'll get them up there and kind of, you know, finger tight, and then I will slip these two exhaust clamps over and then slide this section on, and then we'll kind of get it in a general area. I like to leave it all loose, including the rear section, which we'll get to after this. Okay guys, so real quick, I do not know anything about Mustangs. This is the first time I've ever worked on one, so it's been a little process here. But a buddy of mine who's big into Mustangs actually said that this is not a stock Xpipe. Apparently the stock Xpipe is actually an H-pipe. So I'm not sure what this is. Maybe this whole system was MagnaFlow. If you guys want to leave comments below, let me know if you guys have any idea. The current owner of this car was under the assumption that the Xpipe here was actually MagnaFlow and the rear section was stock. But clearly, as you can see here, the rear section actually says MagnaFlow on here on the mufflers, and this pipe doesn't have anything written on it at all. Honestly, don't have any idea what this is. So if you guys happen to know, leave a comment below. Anyway, figured I'd make a comment about that because I honestly have no idea. Again, never worked on a Mustang, so this is something new to me. But leave comments below and let us know what you guys think. I'm gonna go ahead and get started now on installing this new catless BBK. Obviously we're gonna go from an X to an X, I guess, but the difference here is this one is fully catless. That one's got some, I don't know, resonators, or I don't know what those are, cats, resonators, whatever they are. So this is going to open it up a little bit, but it looks like the diameter piping is about the same. I think this is a 2.5-inch pipe, and that appears to be the same. So let's go ahead and get this new one on. Like I said a minute ago, we need to go ahead and pull these O2s off. So again, the blue is the driver's side. So here's my little tool. Here's kind of a close-up of how this works. And you just kind of use it like a ratchet. Okay, so a little update on the O2 sensor situation here. These are completely stuck on here. I even used a blowtorch to try to heat up the metal around it to try to loosen it up, and that did not work. So I think whoever installed these O2s on this aftermarket Xpipe probably cross-threaded them, because there is absolutely no way that I'm getting these off, and now they're starting to strip. So what we're gonna do instead is actually buy 2 new ones. So you do have an option. If you put a tune on the car, you could actually just put little block-off plates on the downstream O2s right here, or just buy new ones. They're only like $30 a piece, and you can probably pick those up at a local auto parts store and be done with it. So that's what we're gonna do here, and we'll get to that later. Those O2s will actually be here later on. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting our new Xpipe on. Okay, so another thing I want to mention on the new Xpipe, on the passenger side, you should use a new gasket. So this was actually purchased at O'Reilly Auto Parts, and this should be a direct fit here. So it'll just go right here in place, and we'll be good to go on the passenger side. The driver's side does not need one, so you just need the one.
Also, don't forget to pull the old gasket out. So this is the old one that was still up there. So the new one has now been replaced up there, and we can go ahead and put this pipe on. We've got the passenger side pipe here up there now, and it's not totally tightened down, but it is on there and tight enough to not move. So all we need to do now with the O2 is reverse twist the O2 and then put it in the actual pipe here and thread it back on. So we're staring at the driver's side now. So with the BBK Xpipe, you actually need a longer O2 sensor. And so what you need to do is also have a O2 sensor wire extender. So I went ahead and unplugged from the green plug, unplugged the actual O2 sensor, and I'm waiting on a extension to get here, and then we can actually add a little bit of extra length, because the way it currently is, it's about 3 inches away from actually going into the hole. The hole on the pipe is actually in a different spot than the last Xpipe, so that's why you need that extension. Since we have to wait for our 2 new O2 sensors for the downstream, as well as the extension for the front stream, what I'm going to do is get these 2 rear mufflers on. So as you can see, these are the Borla, and they are already marked for us right side, left side, right side, left side. So should be a pretty simple install from here. And we do have a couple exhaust clamps to hold all this together. The good thing is we do have the ability to put this whole section on and come back to the Xpipe. So you don't have to remove the entire exhaust in order to get the Xpipe off, but as long as things are loose, we can actually move things around, and we should be able to squeeze the new Xpipe on when we're ready. All right, so I've navigated the left side muffler in here, and currently it is hanging on one of our exhaust hangers, which you can see right there. It's hanging on one exhaust hanger, but there is one above right there. So if you do have problems getting your exhaust hanger on, you could lubricate it with a little bit of WD-40, and that will help slide it on a little bit easier. Okay, so I've got the left side up. We're gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the right side. And I went ahead and already sprayed my exhaust hangers with some WD-40, so we should be ready to go. Okay, so the owner dropped by, brought over some new O2 sensors here, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those on. Oh, you guys already saw, I've got the rear 2 mufflers on, actually on the hangers, so they're relatively in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these, and we can finally finish up this Xpipe. All right, a little progress report for you guys. So this is the driver's side here. I've got this pipe up in there, but it's not fully tightened yet because we still need to put the O2 in there, so we're waiting on the extension for that. And it's just smart to kind of leave everything loose because we are going to have to adjust this. Currently, the way this is sitting, I have this pipe and this pipe touching each other underneath this exhaust clamp. So I need to loosen these back up. These aren't really fully tightened down or anything yet, but I just kind of wanted to get it up there to see how far we're at. Additionally, I am doing this by myself, so kind of just wanted to get it up there and take a look and see how things were. So I've got our new O2s in here. So these were purchased at O'Reilly's or AutoZone, one of the two. And since the placement is different from the old Xpipe that was in here, we need to figure out which one goes in which slot here. And they're both relatively long, but slightly not long enough. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is kind of disconnect this here from the actual little bracket up there and kind of give us a little bit more clearance. Same with the other side as well. All right, so you go ahead and loosen this up here. And I'm gonna make sure that this is all the way in there as far as I can go. I'm gonna tighten it back down. Same thing with this side here. Let's see. All right. So the really nice thing here with the Borla is that these are adjustable. So I can put this up here and move that to exactly where I need it to go. Same with this side. Pull it out, line it up. And then we can go ahead and bolt these together. Okay, so here's the supplied hardware that we will be using to secure the rear section to the Xpipe. So as you can see, we've got a long bolt here. So it's gonna be bolt, washer, the actual two pipes connecting, and then another washer, a locking washer, and then the nut finally. So the point of the locking washer is to keep this from vibrating, and so you want it on this side before the nut. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of get those on and relatively in place. And again, you don't want to tighten all this stuff down. Keep it all relatively loose. That way you can kind of adjust and play with, you know, fitment and all that. Like I said, these pipes on the Borla here are adjustable, so that's very helpful. So I'm gonna go ahead and put one of these on here. Better to do it by hand first. Additionally, I think it makes more sense to have the bolt going towards the back of the car because you are going to have a little bit of overhang here, as you can see on the screw. And you know, if you're driving, there's a potential chance, you know, you get some road debris to catch right on that remainder of the screw threads. But I don't know if that's any logical sense, but to me that makes sense. So that's why I'm doing it this way. So once we get this up into place, this is kind of where it will sit. Should be up and out of the way, so we still have to tighten that whole side, but at least we can get these pipes generally in the spot that we want. So it's important that you get these sections to be as flush as possible. Again, once we get this up there a little bit higher and tighten up the front end, we will be able to get this in a better spot and tighten it because you don't want to have any exhaust leaks in these areas here. So it's really nice that the Borla has adjustable flanges here on the end. So that is really, really helpful. Okay, so on the Borla, the flange here that's adjustable, we also need to put an exhaust clamp right here. So that's why they gave us 4 with the Borla. We need to do 1 on each side here. And this is a 2.25 inch diameter. So they did give us 4 clamps that are of different sizes, which I will show you here. So like I said, one size is bigger than the other, as you can see. So this is the 1.25. We're going to use these in the back to connect the mufflers
the tips to the actual mufflers, and then we'll use the 2.25 for that flange area. So actually, if you look at this diagram here, doesn't matter which picture, but so this one here, the exhaust clamp for the tip to the muffler is going to be the 2.5, and then from the flange to the muffler is the 2.25. Okay, so this is what it should look like. Went ahead and put these exhaust clamps on here. They're not totally tightened, but as you can see, there's one there and there's one there, and I've kind of faced them up this way, so once I tighten them, it'll be up and out of the way. And these little clamps here should be tightened to between 32 and 35 foot-pounds. So I will be doing that later once we get everything else situated, but we're looking pretty good so far. We finally have our O2 sensor extensions here. These were purchased from O'Reilly Auto Parts. It did come with 2 in the pack here, so I think we only need to use 1. We'll take a look when we get down there and see if we need any additional slack. So I went ahead and put the extension on, and I've got the O2 sensor tightened and in place. And we do have a little bit of extra slack here on the actual wire here, so what I'm going to do is actually zip tie it up and out of the way. Now that we've got the O2 situated on there, I went ahead and tightened some of the Xpipe piping up there. It's not fully tight, so I can still move things around, but I'm going to go ahead and get these tips on now and try to get everything lined up. Also, don't forget to bring your clamp along with you. Also, be sure to use some WD-40 for your exhaust hanger back here. So go ahead and get this up here. Get it on the hanger first, and then get it up here. As you can see here on the driver's side, I've got the hanger up in there, and it's important again to leave your pipes loose, so I had to make sure that one down there was loose so that I could adjust this little U-bend here in order to fit it all the way inside. I got it all the way down to here, this little bump out on this muffler pipe, or this tip pipe. And so now we're all good to go, and I went ahead and tightened that clamp down. So now what we can do is finally pull this little tip off and see what things look. Get your hanger in first, use some WD-40. Line up your pipes here. All the way up. And then tighten. All right, we can go ahead and pull this off. And there you have it. Moving back to the center of the car, make sure you have all of your nuts and bolts tightened. So these are all going to be 15s on this. And don't forget to plug in your O2 sensors, which, by the way, the purple goes on the right side, passenger side, and blue goes on the driver's side. So note that on the BBK Xpipe, these O2s are actually set back further, whereas the last pipe we were on was up here further. So we do have to kind of pull the passenger side O2 sensor off of the bracket here and just kind of extend it a little bit more. I have another extension, O2 extension, but I don't want to use all that slack. It's not necessarily, I only needed like this much space, so all I did was pull it off the bracket here, and I used a zip tie to zip tie it back up there and out of the way. So got enough slack, and it's not touching any hot pipes or anything, so we're good to go here. So just last final check to make sure everything's tightened up, and that should about wrap it up. I went ahead and double checked all the nuts, the bolts, the O2 sensors, everything should be good to go. So now my final step is to use some 70% IPA and wipe down all my greasy fingerprints. That way we don't have my fingerprints burning into the exhaust. 70% IPA, isopropyl alcohol, and this was from, I don't know, CVS or something, so just get a little bit on your paper towel, wipe all my fingerprints off of here, and it will evaporate on its own, obviously, so just make sure it's nice and clean. And I'm going to do this to not only the tips, but the entire pipe down there itself. Last step here, go ahead and reconnect the negative terminal of the battery, 8mm. Okay, so battery is reconnected. I think I'm ready to finally turn this car on. It's been quite a journey so far. I am going to leave the car currently on jack stands just in case. I'm gonna carefully get inside the car, turn it on, and see if I have any weird exhaust leaks. But I'm really excited, so I hope you guys are too. Let's get to it. So you guys probably noticed a little bit of smoke coming out of the tailpipes. That's pretty normal, especially for a new exhaust. It kind of has to burn all of those oils and all that stuff that's in the piping, so that will go away. But it is totally catless now, and I can assure you that it is because my eyes are starting to water and my throat is starting to feel it. So definitely a lot louder than the last setup. I think my buddy's gonna be really excited to hear this. All right guys, so that just about does it for the install. Overall, not a complicated thing to do. If you can do it on a lift, that'd be even better, but I obviously did have a couple little hiccups. I had one stubborn bolt on the Xpipe, and we had the little debacle with the O2 sensors. So other than that, I'd say it was a pretty simple process. I've taken lots of exhaust off over my time, so this was nothing different. Sometimes when you modify, you just have to go through some crazy struggles to get to the outcome. So overall, I think it sounds really good. I'm gonna end the video here, but I will add some sound clips here at the end. Unfortunately, it is raining right now, so I can't take the car out, but it's a lot louder than it was before, and I think my buddy's really gonna like this. So you guys let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about anything that we've done in the video, and hopefully I'll start doing more Ford stuff. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.